Good morning to you. Glad to have you here today. If you will, like, share, comment, and then if you choose, you can follow along in First John chapter 4. We will begin in verse number 12. Here, John says, "No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. By this we know that we abide in him, and he in us, because he has given us of his Spirit." A lot going on in those two short verses. He begins by saying, "No one has ever seen God." And then he goes from that statement to this question about loving one another and God abiding in us. And the first thing we need to handle here in considering that verse is, again, the statement that no one has ever seen God. And then the relationship between that and the statement about love. Our neighbors have never seen God. No one has ever seen God, John says. No one has ever seen the wind. But we look around us and we see too often the effects of wind. After a storm, nobody sees the wind come through, but we see the damage. We see the tree limbs down, or even complete trees. We see things tossed about. We didn't see the wind, but we see the effects of it. And I think the first thing John is reminding his readers of is that our neighbors, our friends, they don't see God, but they see the effect of the love of God in our life, or certainly they should see the effects of the love of God in our life. Nobody's seen God, but if we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. That others should be able to recognize the effects of the love of God in our life. But not only others, then in verse 13, he says the same thing. By this we know that we abide in him, and he in us, because he has given us of his Spirit. He says not only should others be able to recognize God at work in us, that they should see the effects of God, even if they don't see God. He says we as well should be able to recognize God at work in our own life. He has placed his Spirit in us, and therefore we should recognize a transformation. There should be change in our life. And again, it comes back to this statement that when we love him, we love his people. We love his children. We love other followers. He says, and everyone, our neighbors and ourselves, should be able to see that transformation, should be able to see a difference in us, and that is how our friends and neighbors will see God. It's not by how big a church we build or how big a church we attend. It's not by the job we hold in church or how much money we give in the offering plate, but he says those who haven't seen God will see it in us when we love one another, and that we know ourselves that we are in him, when we are being obedient, when we are abiding in him, when we are loving our brothers and sisters. Never, my friends, never underestimate the power of loving one another and the witness and the testimony that has to a lost and dying world. All right, think about that. You have a good day. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.